Dear Venerable Sirs and dear friends in the Dhamma, again I am very glad to be here with you today in this evening, and also very glad to see you all before I leave tomorrow, to once again to get a chance to see all of you. So today we would like to learn one important Pali term and also very important tendency in our mind. I think if you read the title, you may remember. Can anybody pronounce that term? Papanca, right? So we can try. You really need to use your lips to sound this papanca, right? Papanca. The very word may sound very sound will make your lips roll, maybe your tongue roll too. But exactly that's also the same rolling happening in our mind. The Buddha used this term to refer to a particular nature of our mind that we all experience. You may not be familiar with the term, but you are familiar with this habit in the mind. And even Bhante Purnaji's teachings, and he's always explaining the few key terms. And one important key term is sanya, and then other term is papanca. So I thought that before I start talking about papanca, to give you an opportunity to experience papanca right now. Yeah, this is not something hard to experience. We experience it all the time. But are you ready to experience some papanca? Yeah. So you can take a moment, take a breath, and maybe if you like, you can close your eyes or simply cast your eyes down and take a breath and feel your body. And just stay in silence for a minute. 1 minute is enough. Stay silent for a minute. I would utter some words, but simply listen to that and just stay freely. Just stay for 1 minute in silence. A warm coffee. Okay, that is enough. When you are simply staying in silence, what happened in your mind? I also say a word. I also said the word. Did anybody hear the word? Yeah. Yeah. And after you hear that word, what happened in your mind? Right. If we have the image of a really hot, cup of coffee with nice aroma, nice, and or maybe you really thinking about when you're on your way back, I should stop in that shop, and I should sit like this in this corner of that shop, and I will order this coffee, and maybe I should eat coffee with some piece of, I don't know. If you had that kind of thing, or maybe you remember, oh yes, I had some coffee yesterday. I had that coffee with that particular friend, And then you can think about that friend, we had this argument and he's always like that. He's always bringing this topic which I don't like to talk about. And then you repeat that conversation again. It may be that. Or maybe you can think about, what this bhavantu is going to do. And whatever you experience, like building, thinking about, imagining certain things, bringing up memories, and creating a kind of fantasies, right? You could create a fantasy of a coffee, or maybe create many thoughts about a particular thing. Sometimes it's not about one thing, but many things. And whatever that the thoughts arise in, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, based on the sounds we hear, based on the smell we get. If you get a nice smell, or maybe a touch sensation, or maybe what you see, based on this raw sensory data, we are very capable of creating a whole virtual reality, a whole whole fantasy, and whole drama. It's a kind of ability, right? I think in all of us there is a very skillful script writer, right? When you have when you have a meeting, maybe you have an appointment to meet someone to discuss very serious issue. Okay, and so you are driving to meet that person, and along the way, even before you meet that person, you can already start the conversation that's going to happen, right? You can already start, sure he will say this, he is like that, and then you will form your response. If that comes, I'm going to tell this, right? And then you can create this whole drama before even you meet that person. I mean, we usually play those dramas with regard to our family members, because we are quite sure about their nature, about their character. You can put that character into scenario, you know exactly what that person will tell, what will be that person's response. He will definitely deny, he will try to defend himself. You know that. So you can easily create a whole drama out of that. So we actually script, we always play those dramas in our mind. We have that kind of ability. But unfortunately, most of the time, this ability of imagining, ability of thinking over and over again of a theme, and this ability of creating fantasies is actually generating more suffering in us than peace and happiness. So that is what the Buddha wanted us to pay attention to, this tendency of the mind, that we have a tendency to go riot, go wild. But you somehow, based on some simple experiences, but it can go wild and it can go riot. And though those things will not necessarily happen actually, but we go through the same emotion as if those things really happen. So without really actual situation arising, we can imagine the situation and go through the same emotional experience. And most of the time in our life we do that. We argue with other people in our mind. We imagine the worst, what's going to happen, if I lose my job, this will happen, that will happen, this will happen, this will happen. I can go all the way to the end. And that is a tendency that we have to recognize, and we have to watch and find a way to break that tendency to have more peace in our life. So the Buddha has a number of discourses which explains this tendency called PAPANCA. And before that, so the literal meaning of PAPANCA is to spread out, or to proliferate, like a dust. When you hit some dust. If you throw something if you drop something on the top of a very small dust, particle of dust, what's going to happen? That dust will come up like a smoke, and it slowly grow and grow and grow and grow and create a big, like a smoke. And that proliferation, that is spreading out, that is the literal meaning of the term papanca or papancheti. It is the verb. And then, so it has that original meaning of proliferating, spreading out. But it also has secondary meaning, that is, most of the time that proliferation is illusory. It's illusory, and is also kind of repetitive, and is almost a kind of habit or even an obsession that is quite difficult to stop. Quite difficult to stop. So it has secondary meaning of obsession, or repetitive doing, like an inner internal force pushing us to do that. And it also has a sense, meaning that it's an obstacle, an impediment for mental peace, and even particularly for enlightenment. So sometimes the nature of the enlightened mind is explained as nippapanca. More difficult to pronounce, like papanca and nippapanca means the opposite of papanca. The mind that will not spread out, it will not proliferate. So because the very proliferation obstruct the peace of the mind and impede the peace of the mind, so it also has that element, the meaning of hindrance or impediment. So that is the kind of state of mind that we would like to be familiar with today. But I was thinking about a good example for you to have a good idea about this. But instead of bringing some example of our day-to-day life, I remembered a very important Jataka story, which was given to talk a different lesson. But I think we can still use that Jataka story to understand what is really happening in the mind. If you know, Jataka stories are the stories of the previous lives of the Buddha. When Buddha, before becoming the Buddha, he was practicing, he was aspiring to become a Buddha. And so this life story, yeah. Yeah, happened, yeah. It happened. Yeah. He doesn't remember then. And he doesn't remember what happened, yeah. So don't let any papanca rise in your mind. Just only compassion. Yeah, few times. Is it fine now? So Jataka stories are the stories about the previous lives of the Buddha. In each lifetime, the Bodhisattva, we call the Buddha to be, develop different qualities to become the Buddha. So we have a collection of stories of those previous lives. And in traditional Buddhist countries, we use those stories to teach moral values. And particularly the Jataka stories are the means to teach good lessons, moral values to children. So there's a Jataka story called, another difficult word, Daddabba Jataka. So today's Daddabba Jataka. Yeah. That's also the very term Daddabba referring to the sound that was made. So in this Daddapa Jataka is about a story of a rabbit. One day a rabbit was sleeping under a palm tree. The special tree called Bilwa tree. The Bilwa tree is a kind of palm tree, and you also sometimes call stone apple. Stone apple, and this is a tree which has it's a palm tree. It's also got the fruit like coconut. So whatever, think about the tree. You are good enough to imagine. We are talking about papanca. You can use your previous experiences to So there was a tree called Bilwa, and this rabbit was sleeping under that tree. And he was fast asleep, and then suddenly he heard a terrifying sound. Such a terrifying sound that he jumped himself up. And he was so afraid of this sound, he thought that this is not simple, and this is going to be very dangerous. The thought came to him that is so strong, so terrifying, the earth should be collapsing. So he got more afraid, after he got that thought. The earth is falling apart. So what you can do? So he, without even staying a moment in that place, because he was afraid of, sinking down. So without even staying a moment there, he started to run away. He ran away as fast as he can, and other rabbits saw him and asked, "Where are you running? What is the matter?" He didn't even stop to say. He kept running, and the other rabbits really wanted to know whether there's any danger, and they followed him, and both were running, and others also running, and while running they asked, "What has happened?" And he said, "No time to stop, the earth is falling apart." And all others also kept running. In that case, then we should really find a safe place. Maybe we run all the way to the ocean. So all the rabbits, and one by one, others asked, "Where are you running? No time to speak, no time to talk. The earth is falling apart." All other rabbits also following them. A huge wave of rabbits were running and running and running. When this rabbit was running, and a deer saw them and asked, "Where are you going? What happened? No time to talk, the earth is collapsing." And then the deer also got afraid, and the deer also started to run. And that deer, many other deer followed him also. Now you have rabbits and deers are running, and it's a huge sound, and they were creating all the sounds and sounds, and they were running. And when those were running, a tiger saw them and asked, "Where are you going?" "No, the earth is collapsing, no time to talk." And he also started to run. And one by one, so the ox saw them, and the bear saw them, and even elephant saw them. And then after a while, you get this whole group of creatures, huge wave, running and breaking all the branches of the forest and running as fast as they can towards the ocean. Because nowhere to stay. The earth is collapsing. And when everybody was running, the Buddha the Bodhisattva, was born as a lion during that time. He saw all these different groups of animals, one after the other are running. And he saw what is happening. He asked and even rhinoceros also following them. He asked from the rhinoceros, "Where are you running? Where are you going?" He said, "These people, earth is collapsing. We try to find a way to, save our lives." But being a lion, he realized that this should not be, really happening. If earth is collapsing, there should be, more science than this. And then he suddenly realized that all these groups of animals are running towards a cliff. If they continue to run, they will definitely collapse. They will definitely collapse, and they will definitely die. So out of compassion, he ran faster than them, and overtook them, and went to the very edge of the cliff, and turned around and looked at the whole group moving like waves towards him now. He's on the edge of the cliff. And then he got all his strength and he roared 3 times. You know the lion roar? The highest, the loudest sound he can make. When he made that, the lion roar 3 times, any animal has to stop. So all the animals stopped suddenly. They were frozen and not able to move. And so they have one fear on one side, the earth is collapsing. Now this side, this huge lion is making this roar. And they had nothing to do. They squeezed and they stopped there. And then lion asked, "Where are you going? What has happened to you?" The elephant came forward and lion supposed to be the king, right? "Your Majesty, the earth is collapsing." And he asked, "Who told you? How do you know?" He asked, "How do you know?" "Tiger told me." Then the lion went to the tiger. Asked, "How do you know?" "The rhinoceros told me." And so he went to the rhinoceros. He said, "I don't know that." The deer told me. So they one by one, and finally they went to the rabbits told us. And then he went to one rabbit and said, "How did you know?" "I don't know, this rabbit told me." And then he went to that rabbit, and after a while, the lion was able to, come to the rabbit who actually woke up with the terrifying sound and realized that actually he is the one who started this whole movement. And I asked, "Explain me what really happened. Did you see the earth is collapsing?" He said, No, Your Majesty, but it was such a terrifying sound. I'm sure that it's collapsing. Don't talk here. Let's move. There's no way. And the lion told them, if you move a little bit further, you will definitely collapse and you will be down. But I want to know what really happened. Where were you? And I explained, a few miles away, there was a mountain. Beyond the mountain, there's a bilwa tree. I was sleeping under that tree, and then suddenly I heard this sound, and then I started to run. So the lion had some idea what could have been happened. But he wanted to go and really experiment and really see what really happened. He asked, can we together go there? And we will ask these animals to wait. We will go and double check whether the earth is collapsing. The rabbit said, "No way. I'm not ready to go there. I know it could have been already collapsed." And the lion said, "No, you are going with me. Get into my back. I will ride you. I will give you a ride." Then you cannot deny the command of the lion. So with really a lot of anxiety and his body is shivering, but he cannot follow. He had to follow the command of the lion. He jumped into the back of the lion. So now lion is moving. "Tell me, where did you go?" So the rabbit, hold tight into the hair of the lion, and so he was moving close to where he was sleeping. When he came to the exactly place, he said, and then the rabbit said, "I can't go closer to anymore. Please let me come down from here." So he jumped down from far distance. Then the lion himself walked that place. He saw the bilwa tree, and the bilwa tree has this fruit with hard shell around it. We call belly, right? Belly, with the hard shell. And then he watched around. He saw actually next to that bilwa tree, there's a palm tree. The tree, not the coconut, the tal, the palm tree, which has the leaves, which is quite hard. So that leaf has fallen on the ground, and he saw that there's a bilwa tree on the top of that palm leaves, the huge palm leaf, which is hard leaf. So whenever something drop into that huge palm leaf, it can really make a big sound. So the lion realized that actually what could have been happened when this rabbit was sleeping, this ripened bilwa tree was fallen into the top of that palm leaf that really make a really big sound. This poor rabbit was really shocked and afraid, and he was running, and everybody else simply blindly followed him. And then he asked the rabbit to come. Earth is quite okay, it's solid here, please come. And he asked exactly where were you sleeping. He pointed out the place and he explained this is what really happened. And then both went back. Though those animals were shivering, still waiting, what could have been happened. And the lion explained, this is what really happened. So don't simply follow what others says. And, examine, check for yourself. This is a good story for believing in rumors. Today's world, nowadays, those days people, spread rumors through when they meet each other. But these days we can spread rumors even without meeting people, right? Yeah, a lot of rumors can go around, and even these days, when even one unfortunate thing happened, people can spread rumors of so many other bad things which didn't really happen. But we can be not be different than those animals who follow that rabbit. So that's a very important story to tell us not simply to be victim to the rumors. But I would like to see this story from a different angle. If you truly understand what can really happen in our mind, can be really like this incident. What really has happened is the ripened bilva fruit has fallen on the top of a palm leaf. That is what really happened. But ultimately what all the animals envision and animals conceptualize what happened was the earth is collapsing. So one very simple incident of falling of bilva fruit can become as big thing as the earth is collapsing. Even in our mind, when we call someone, your friend, or maybe your child, or maybe your partner, whoever, when you call someone, that person didn't answer the phone. And now you can start generating and proliferating all those. Why this person didn't answer the phone? Maybe he has gone to that place. I know. Sure he has gone. Maybe he have gone to that place. And you can, have more other thoughts. And you really don't know what is the real cause. Why that person didn't answer the phone. But you can generate such a big story. At the end, you can end up having a real drama. That person is really angry with me. I'm not going to talk with him next time when I meet. You can already make the decision not to talk to that person when you meet next time. And so exactly what happened in that story, similar thing can happen in our mind too. That is called PAPANCA. And so Buddha has a very interesting discourse called Madhupindika Sutta, the discourse on the honey bowl. I think Bhante Punnaji's sutta class, I think, and this is also one of my favorite, discourses. And you can study on these discourses again and again. That is why it's called honey bowl. This name was given by the Buddha to this sutta, honey bowl, because Buddha said that when a person is so hungry and he was looking for food, if somebody give him a honey bowl, maybe like the really sweet fruit with honey, and how would that person enjoy that honey bowl? So the more you savor it, the more taste you will get it. So the more you read this sutta again and again, we will have more taste, more savor again. So, but I will simply focus on the explanation. So this particular sutta is explaining how we construct our knowledge, how we perceive anything in the world. It's the process of sensory perception. So there's a detailed explanation, step-by-step explanation, how we construct our knowledge, how we come to know about anything, and what is the process of our sensory knowledge. So sensory perception. So that sutra also used the term papanca or papancheti. So I will briefly explain the stages of our sensory process. Initial stage is that our sensory organ will come across with the sensory object. If it is eye, we will come across with the visual form. If it is the ear, we will come across with the sound or the smell or taste. So we have a rudimentary data. Our eye, sensory object, and our engagement or our consciousness. Whenever these three things get together, when we have a healthy eye or ear, nose or tongue, whatever sensory organ, and a sensory object, and our consciousness. And whenever these three things meet together, we call it passa, right? And it is the Bhante Punnajis call it cognition. Usually it's translated as contact, sensory contact. He doesn't really like the word sensory contact. Initial cognition. Whenever these three things get together, we have initial cognition, bare awareness of that basic sensory object. And then once we have that initial, the beginning point of our sensory awareness, sensory knowledge, and then what happens, and first what we get is called Vedana. Whenever you hear some sound, even before you recognize it, you have some kind of sensations about it. Whether it's a pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Whenever you see something, hear something, smell something, taste something, feel something, or remember something, and after the initial encounter of these three things, what we get is a sensation. You feel it's a pleasant one or unpleasant one or neutral one. And the pass in that stage, what we do, whatever we sense, we will recognize it. We will perceive it. In that stage, what we are trying to do, we use our previous memories, previous concepts, and we will, actually the word recognize means recognize. Right? Recognize, if you divide that word, recognize, means that you try to understand what has appeared in front of you based on your previous concepts, memories. So then that is where actually we construct our knowledge. You may see a color, and maybe shape, and then that sensory encounter, then you have a kind of sensation, with a pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, and then you recognize. You go to your bank of your memories and concept and try to see whether there's any fitting concept that I can understand this new information. As you can give a name, you name it, or you give, you perceive it. We call it perceive it, recognize it. And once you recognize it, using your own set of concepts and memories, then that gives you opportunity to go beyond that. And whatever you perceive, you think about. You think about it. You can think about. Now you have make it an object. So you can think about it. And that thinking about it this way and that way. But if you continue that process, the next phase is called papanca, means mentally proliferates. So initially we recognize, and then we think about it. When you think about it, you can think about in a logical sense with a possible reality. But when you move to the stage of papanca, you mentally proliferate. You can think about, you can continue thinking about even to the level that not possible at all. And it can run riot like the rabbit was running. And as a result of our mental proliferation, we can develop further concepts, further categories that can influence our subsequent sensory experiences later. So we have a special term called papanca sanya sankha. So that is how we live in our life. We experience the world. We have an initial sensory encounter, and we have sensations, and sensation will lead to perceptions. Perception can lead to conceptions. Conception can lead to mental proliferations. And mental proliferation will produce further categories of cognition that can influence our next experience. So we have been like in a loop, going again. And that's the explanation. It's a kind of deep psychology. That is what the Madhupindika Sutta says. And so in our life, all the time when we experience anything, this can happen to us. What is really interesting in this case, initially we have a very simple sensory data, either some image or a sound or a smell, whatever. And then we recognize it and we think about it, we proliferate it. But at the end of the proliferation, what really happened is that we become a victim to our own thinking. And Pali is very clear in that sutta. When we have a sensory object, sensory organ, and meeting with the consciousness, is given in impersonal language. When we start to perceive it, when we start to conceptualize it, when we start to proliferate it, is given with active voice verb. But the sutta ends when the experiencer become a victim to his own process of experience. And this is what is happening to us. We become a victim to our own sensory processes. And there was a very well experienced monk of the Buddhist psychology and also Buddhist meditation called Venerable Jnanananda. And he's the one who wrote a very important book called Concept and Reality. And in that book, he explains this whole process, but he used a very interesting story I would like to share with you. That will help you to understand how we become a victim to our own sensory experience if we don't really, examine it. According to this story, the Venerable Jnanananda, he explains that this is a story about three magicians. Three magicians were walking across the forest. They came across with pieces of bones scattered. Those are the pieces of bones of a dead tiger. So when they saw these pieces of bones, one magician said that, I know a magical spell. When I do this, all these bones can come back to this original, shape and structure. He wanted to show himself, show his magical skills. And other two say that, okay, if you are good enough, show your magical skills. So then these magicians make his spell, and all these scattered bones came together and formed into a nice skeleton of a tiger. The second magician said that, do you think that you are the only one who knows magic? I also know a magical spell, that this magical spell can actually bring all the flesh and the skin back to this skeleton. The other two magicians say, okay, go ahead and show your skills too. So the second magician also took his time and made the spell, and that nice skeleton of the tiger became a full-fleshed, body. The third magician, he also had to do something, right? Now all the two has done. And he said, okay, since you both have shown your magic skills, let me do my skill. I know a spell that actually can bring life to this flesh body. So he took his turn and made the spell. And at the end of the spell, the skeleton, this whole body of the tiger became alive. So all the three magicians showed their own skills, and at the end, the tiger became alive right in front of them. So do you want to know what happened next? What is the next magic? When the living tiger is in front of three men, so what happened? The living tiger attacked all these three men, and all three magicians were killed and eaten by the tiger. So this is a hypothetical, story. But what was originally there was the scattered pieces of bones. The first magician put them together into the skeleton. The second magician put the flesh and the skin. And third magician is the one who put the whole life. And that killed three of them. The PAPANCA is the third stage that can really kill you, and really bring you to different emotional pains and experiences. So this is a very interesting story to tell about what really happened in our, normal sensory experience. What is really there are the pieces of bones. There was no tiger at all. So what we really encounter in our life through our eye, ear, nose, tongue are simply sounds, or visual forms, or smells, or taste. So we actually experience very rudimentary, very raw, very simple. The danger or whatever the emotional experience comes when we proliferate it. When we put so many other ingredients from our mind, and even pieces of bones can become a living tiger. So how many times we have made pieces of bones a living tiger? Right? You may simply see a car. When you drive, you see a car. Suddenly remember, that was the car that I used to have. That is the brand I used to have. A few years ago, I had this car. And then think about, I sold that car. And then you think about to whom you sold. Right? And you think about, that person is very rich now. And he has so many other cars. And you can think about, or maybe that person actually cheated me. He didn't give good enough money. And then you can have, and you can generate, so much anger. That person cheated me. He really, it was not really honest in his transaction. He cheated me. And then I should give him a call, and I should do this and that thing. And you can have all this drama, and now your heart is painful. You are really angry. And what you really saw is not your friend, not the person who bought your car. What you saw is simply a different car. But that is enough for you to bring into a whole lot of memories and realities that we can go through a whole set of emotions. You can really make a very dangerous, terrible tiger out of the bones. And we do it most of the time. And this is a tendency of our mind. Our tendency, or the habit of our mind, of making up stories. Making up stories all the time, playing drama all the time. We really have to bring our mindfulness to understand. We may not recognize in the beginning. Maybe we only recognize when we are going through strong emotions. We feel so much pain, so much anger, so much sadness. And if you can take a moment, okay, let me see what has happened. Be that lion. Remember what the lion did? Okay, let's go back and see what really happened. So if you're going through strong emotions, remember that's a result of PAPANCA. The only way you can relieve that pain is, okay, let me go back. How did I come to this state? What was the beginning? You may still feel very painful. Okay, you mentally go backward and see what really happened. What was I was thinking about just before that? And what was I was thinking about just before that, just before that, just before that? Hopefully, you'll be able to find the bilwa tree. You'll be able to find, I saw this billboard. That's all. And that brought all the memories and all the imaginations. Or maybe I just, heard that sound. Whatever. And every painful emotion has the start of a very rudimentary sensory data. Either sound, or a smell, or a taste, or a visual image. That visual image itself is not dangerous. That sound itself is not dangerous. It's like a piece of bones. We are the one who put these things together and make a whole story and let that tiger eat our well-being. And we are doing it most of the time. That is why we really have to pay close attention And then try to, if we can, try to stop at the level of sensory experience. But out of our previous habit, our mind can start create stories. But if we can catch at least in the middle, if we can at least catch the second magician, you can be a little safe. You may be thinking about a little bit or realize, it still didn't happen. You are still driving. You didn't really meet that person. You can already start your conversation, your argument right in the car. In the middle, you realize that, I'm thinking. And take a deep breath. Remind yourself, I'm still in the car. I haven't met the person yet. Hold your steering quite tightly. Make sure that I'm still in the car. And take a deep breath and relax. No, not yet. Let's see what happens when I meet the person. Don't let the third magician to do the spell. It will eat you. It will give you more pain and trouble. So you can catch yourself, either in the beginning of the process or middle of the process, or at least maybe towards little advance of the process. But whenever you can catch it, take a breath. The breath is the very important tool to break the whole cycle, because breath brings you down to the present moment. Taking a long, deep breath can help you to come to the actual reality, not to the virtual reality that you are creating. So keep watching. You will see so many papanca. So many papanca happening every day, every time, every hour, every moment in our life. The more papanca, the more the proliferate our mind is doing, the further we are going away from the reality. The more papanca, the more away from reality. Because the papanca itself is creating and generating, the proliferating and moving us away and away from the reality. So we can, the good news is that whenever we catch this, we only need one breath. If you want, maybe 3-4 breaths, but at least you only need to remember to breathe, to come back to the actual reality, and then relax yourself, and then face the actual situation you need to face. So I hope that this will help you to not to create so much suffering and pain in our life. So most of the time, our strong emotional pain that we are going through is based on this habit of making up stories, habit of mental proliferation. So don't forget the papanca. Remember, it is always with you. But our attempt is to gradually see them, and detect them. When they are happening, catch it, and then simply observe them and take a breath and come to the present moment. And more you do it, your tendency, your habit of papanca will gradually reduce. And then we will have more peace and happiness in our life. So I wish that may you all be able to go beyond your papanca and start a path towards nipapanca, which means the enlightenment. Thank you.
We thank Bhante for delivering an excellent talk. We would like to acknowledge and extend our deep appreciation and thanks to our list of sponsors for today. Sister Gladys Jayawardene, to Sister Joyce and Brother Francis Deson, to Sister Chia Ai Hyung, and to Sister Pek Xiao Wei. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Any questions, brothers and sisters? Please take this opportunity to ask questions since this is the Bhante last talk. Okay, yes, please come forward, brother.
Bhante, I think I have to ask before you leave for Pittsburgh. I don't know when you're coming back. Anyway.
June next year.
Good evening, Bhante, brothers and sisters. We're talking about papanca, right?
Yeah.
I want to relate to basically feelings. Like, for example, there's one Buddhist law called cause and effect, a karmic effect, right? Like, when you see a person, right, you know this guy have ill intention, or maybe he have motive behind his actions, that kind of thing. You can sense it. This kind of perceptions, right? And then you start to imagine, oh, this lady come or this man come, what is he going to do next to me? You know, that kind of office politics. He will give his bosses superior to get favor, and then to downgrade his subordinate so he can get up, that kind of thing. From the point of papanca, right? Let's say that I'm a victim, right? Which actually I went through this process. So how are we going to act on this to not to have that kind of perception, because you have to deal with him or her every day, they kind of live with it. You know? It's so painful, so frustrated to go to work, but no choice because we have to seek a living. Thank you, Dante.
I think question is that when you see a difficult person, right, the person who's giving you troubles, right, when you see such a person, how to prevent your mind from creating papanca, right? So our practice of detecting our papanca and weakening it does not mean that we stop responding to actual problems in our life. So if we have such a person, definitely we have to find a way to deal with that person in many ways. But in this practice, what we are doing is that to simply prevent us from having inner pains because of our playing of the drama. So there's the actual difficult situation that we are facing, an actual encounter, actual arguments, actual conversation happening is one thing. And then the imagining conversations, imagining the worst case scenario is another thing. So we already have a negative scenario. We already have a difficult environment to be with. When you add on the top of that your worst imaginings, and you already have a few arguments happen already. When you add another argument with your own mind, it simply adds up to the negativity of the situation, right? So by learning to detect the papanca, by learning to weaken the papanca, what we are doing is we just remove that added unnecessary part that we are adding to the situation. So negative situation can be negative, and we have to find skillful ways to deal with that. But in this practice, what we are trying to do is that usually when there's a negative event, negative incident, we add more negativity to that incident in our own mind. And we add more pains to that already difficult situation simply through imagining the worst. So we just want to remove that. That's our effort, And then we have more energy to deal with the actual negative situation. Otherwise, we have added, layer of the difficulty. So we try to reserve our energy to really deal with that negative situation. I don't like to call it negative person, a negative situation. So when we keep on playing imagining the worst and having those drama in your mind, you lose your energy. You become so exhausted. So you want to preserve it. When you have a real situation, when that person will come in front of you, you have more energy, more awareness, more mindfulness to deal with that person. So it's simply, you will not simply able to solve the negative situation simply because you reduce the papanca. You simply remove the added layer of the negativity. Okay. Dealing with such a person, we need to have another seminar. How to deal with difficult personalities, you know. And maybe next time round, you know.
Any more questions, brothers and sisters? As I mentioned earlier, today is Bhante last stop. Please take this opportunity to ask questions.
Bhante, sorry.
Okay. Majjhima Nikaya. Yeah. Madhupindika Sutta. Yeah. Yeah, Madhupindika Sutta. Hannibal. Yeah.
Bhante, can you elaborate the Papanca Sanya Sankha?
Oh. Yeah, okay. I think there's a video of Bhante Punnaji which explains Papanca Sanya Sankha. Briefly, that book called Concept and Reality is the detailed explanation of Papanca Sanya Sankha. In briefly, Papanca Sanya Sankha are the products of the mental proliferation. Once you have a mental proliferation, like imagine a situation, you play a drama and imagine this, even though you finish that mental proliferation, through that very process of proliferating, you already construct objectifications, identifications, and so many conceptual categories that will remain in the mind. And then we have similar experience next time. Those categories we construct will influence. Let's say you think about a person, like you really think about the person. And that person, maybe you have argument with that person, and then you keep on thinking. When next time I'm going to say this, surely he will defend this, and I'm going to say this, and you have all this, proliferation, and somehow you finish it. But when you meet the person next time, we use those the categories, whatever we thought about, leave certain traces in our cognitive process that influence our subsequent experiences. So, Papanca Sanya Sankha are the conceptual categories produced through mental proliferation. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay, Bhante. Just very simple, quick one. From what I understand that when there is this papanca arising, or the papanca, to avoid having pain, is to make sure that we are aware of how the emotion come about.
Yes.
Right. So my question is there a way that we can stop and cease our mind for not having papanca at all?
That's the goal. That's the goal. But
okay.
To go there, we cannot simply switch the mind off and stay there. So we need a gradual approach. Right now, we are very skilled. Our mind is well trained to develop papanca. Now we have to unlearn it. So that is why the enlightenment is called nippapanca. When an enlightened person see, hear, smell, taste, they stay with the actual reality. They stay with the actual sensory data. They don't make those visual forms or sounds a theme for further thinking.
Okay.
They stop at the level of the pieces of bones.
Okay.
So, but to go there, we have to gradually unlearn the already learned habits.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Just stop at the first magician.
Yeah.
Stop.
Even yeah. Yeah, because first magician put the skeleton together.
Oh, don't even at that magician.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Bhante, regarding what you mentioned in the Madhupindika Sutra, there Buddha mentioned about the 7 types of anusayang. Yes. And in cognitive psychology, in the work of Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, they also talk about mental proliferation in the form of cognitive distortions.
Distortions.
Yes, cognitive distortions. How does these many types of cognitive distortions in cognitive psychology compare with what Buddha was talking about in terms of the anusayam, the 7 types of anusayam?
Yeah, I think that will be a very interesting comparison, brother. I haven't made that comparison, but there's a very good possibility that we can understand those 7 anusayas in terms of what you call cognitive distortions. Basically, anusayas are the latent, dormant tendencies in the mind. That the very term anusaya means to like sleeping, like these tendencies of the mind that is at sleep. We may think that I'm a very patient, kind person until you meet a really difficult person. When you meet a really difficult person to be with, and all the tendency that was lying will come out. So all of us has that the dormant underlying tendencies. So those are called anusaya. We have tendencies for aversion, we have tendencies for attachment, we have tendencies for self-identification. So there are 7 tendencies. So when these tendencies get activated, and then they can influence the mental proliferation, and the mental proliferation can in turn enhance, strengthen the anusaya too. So anusaya themselves may not be the active distortions. So anusayas would be more related to the unconscious state of the mind, like so much hidden unconscious underlying tendencies of the mind. But they can come to the conscious level and then can produce cognitive distortions. So I would like to see anusaya more as related to unconscious part of the mind rather than active distortions. But they are connected to each other. Yeah.
One of the things that I felt after reading all that and connecting it with cognitive psychology is the idea that this is the reason why there is this thing called no free will.
Mm-hmm.
That our mind is not free to think of something from zero.
Yeah.
Every time a thought arises, there are these arising of the anusaya. Does that make sense?
Exactly, yeah. The moment we think about is we have been influenced by our anusayas and previous categories. So there's a difference between thinking and experiencing. So if at the level of experiencing, it is natural, but the level of thinking, we definitely are influenced by our previous tendencies.
So is it safe then for a Buddhist to say, because of the arising of the anusaya, we don't have free will, that every thought is connected with some latent arising?
Yeah, we can say, instead of saying we don't have free will, most of the time, we don't exercise free will because we are big victim to our anusayas and our previous memories. But we also have this skill of mindfulness. We also have a skill to break this. So in that case, we can say we have a free will to break this, but we need support, we need help also. Like when you say, when we cannot decide, we cannot stop thoughts from arising, we cannot simply continue to think only thing that we want to think. We also cannot stop thinking about things that we don't like to think, right? So we really have no control, right? Can you only think about the things you like to think? Or can you stop thinking about something that you really don't like remember? We can't do that, right? And can you decide what will be your next thought? So you have no control to decide what will be your next thought. You cannot stop to think about things that you don't like to think. You cannot also continue. You also cannot think only about things you like to think. So in that case, can you say I think? Like, I think. So we really cannot say I think. In that case, we don't have a free will or agency. Like, thoughts occur to us. That will be the proper way of telling, right? Thoughts occur to us. We don't think. Thoughts occur to us. Yeah. But we can become aware of this process. That is exactly what we do in meditation. The only time we think is when we meditate. Like in the same sense that like with agency. With agency. Like so everyone of us are victims of our own habitual patterns and our anusayas and our thoughts. But we also have a capacity to be aware of it and gradually break this. So we cannot say we don't have free will. Most of the time, we are victims. But we also have the capacity to break this. So
which meditation is best to break this?
Any meditation, I mean, actually the mindfulness is the beginning, but Buddha has specifically said that in order to counter papanca and also vitakka, which is like before papanca is vitakka, reasoning and thinking about, the antidote for so many proliferation is meditation on breathing. Breath meditation is the antidote. Yes, welcome. Yeah. Okay. It's a meditation, training of the mind. Exactly. I mean, you can say control, but I would rather say it's meditation helps us to see it and then channel it, Not necessarily like control in the sense of suppressing it, but managing it, navigating it, and unlearning it, Yes, managing the mind, yes. Okay.
Before we share merit with our devas and our departed loved one, I have a few announcements and brief updates.
I also have an announcement.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Upcoming talks and event on this Friday, 30th of November 2018. Dhamma sharing by Bhante Vinita with the topic gratitude, and it will be conducted at the Wisdom Room at 8 p.m. Updates on our Dhammadānaṃ lecture series. We welcome a sponsor for upcoming Dhammadānaṃ lecture series. The donation goes towards purse for speakers and monks, refreshment for attending devotees, and utilities for halls, electricity and maintenance. We appeal to your kind generous donation to make the Dhammadānaṃ lecture series a success. There is a donation box at the back of the hall. Those who wish to obtain a receipt can do so at the front office. Now we would like to invite the respected Maha Sangha to come forward to do the sharing of merits.
Okay.
Bhante will do a short announcement.
Thank you, brother. So I was requested to make this announcement since this is the last request the Buddhist Maha Vihara would make. I thought I will make that announcement. They also asked me to use my art of persuasion as best I can to make this announcement. Actually, the old library of the previous hall is now they want to relocate the library. So they have a lot of books in the previous library. They want to move to new location, the Visma Annex building, right? So they want a chain of people to pass the books for a while. So they would like to do it right after this Dhamma talk. So if anybody would like to help to transfer the books from old library to new room, so you can volunteer, and so you can meet at the refreshment counter. If you like to spend maybe a little bit more time in the temple, please go there and help and see Sister Serena there. So, was I persuasive enough? Yeah. Right. And
This will happen right after our Dhamma talk, and please do stay back as we have prepared light refreshment for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we will do the sharing of merits today. Also, especially, we would like to do this water ceremony to share the merits for Bhante. Yeah, Bhante Punnaji. Before that, again, I'm very glad to see all of you today, and I'm glad that I get one more chance to see you before I leave. And thank you very much for coming tonight. And I look forward to come back again definitely next year. Next year. And maybe for a longer time definitely. I will stay a little longer next time. And so next year, I plan to spend my rainy retreat, my Vassana retreat in Sri Lanka to help my master, because my master have a monastic training college. There is a lot of small monks, and he has 2 orphanages, so he need my help also. So I found my friends to take care of Pittsburgh Buddhist Center for these 3 months, and I will be in Sri Lanka for that 3 months. So I am also thinking about planning a meditation retreat plus a pilgrimage to Sri Lanka while I am there in July or August. So if you like to come and maybe do a few days of pilgrimage in Sri Lanka, and then go to a nice top of a mountain and spend 3 days in retreat, meditation retreat, you can join next year. So you'll get more information later once I finalize details. Yeah, thank you. So now we will share the merits today. You made the effort, you sacrificed so many things to come here today. You could have been doing so many other things during this hour, but you purposely decided to come here. And thank you very much for being here. And then you, by simply being here and listening to the teachings of the Buddha, you were able to keep your mind free from greed, hatred and delusion, and free from some of papanca. And by simply keeping your mind free from greed, hatred and delusion, you were able to generate so much goodness, so much good karma, so much good merits in your heart. So your mind is full of merits now. This is also the time that we should share these merits with all others. So you can recall to your mind whoever you want to share these merits with, your departed relatives, grandparents or parents or friends, whoever. Recall them to your mind and share these merits with them. And wish them also to have the opportunity to practice the Dhamma and be free from all forms of suffering. So let us wish, may they all share these merits. So today Dhamma talk is especially sponsored by these people, Sister Gladys Jayawardena, Sister Joyce and Brother Francis Desan, and Sister Chia Ai Hyun and Sister Pek Seo Wei. So we also wish that may their departed relatives also share these merits, and may they all rejoice in these merits, may they all benefit from these merits, and with these merits may they find peace, happiness wherever they may be. And now we will do this water ceremony. The monks will pour the water, and we also keep Bhante Punnaji in our hearts. And we know that he may not need our merits, but we miss him so much, and we want to show our gratitude, and we want to promise him that we will continue the learning and the practicing the Dhamma, the wisdom that he was sharing with us. So let us spend this time in gratitude, sharing this goodness with our late Bhante, Dr. Punnaji, and all of our other departed relatives. Let us share merits together. Let us also share these merits with all other divine beings and any other beings. If there's any being in this world who would like to share our merit, may he or she do so. May all divine beings, may all other living beings share our merit. May they all be well, happy and peaceful. Ettavata ammihi sambhatam punya sangpadam sabbe devanumodantu sabba sangpatti siddhya. Ettavata ammihi sambhatam punya sangpadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sangpatti siddhya. Ettavata ammihi sambhatam punya sangpadam sabbe sattā anumodantu sabba sangpatti siddhya. The monks will do this blessing chant. We wish you all to receive the blessings of the great compassion of the Buddha. May you receive the blessings of the great profundity of the Dhamma. May you receive the blessings of the loving kindness of the disciples of the Buddha. May you receive the blessings of this wholesome vibration that we are generating now. With these blessings, may you be blessed with good health, peace, happiness, and strength and courage to overcome difficulties in your life. May you all and your family members receive these blessings. May you all be well, happy, and peaceful. Sabbhitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada suttanti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada suttanti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada suttanti bhavantu te.